Okay.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming. I'm letting some people in as we speak. I'm recording tonight's session, and I'm going to turn it off for the Q&A. I'm Mina. I'm your host for the evening from Square Peg Union. We're a Marin County parent support group for neurodiverse families. You've probably seen a lot of my emails. Carly and I, we met in an OT waiting room when our boys were about 5 years old, and we started Square Peg Union last year in October. And it's steadily grown to 130 members, which kind of blows our mind. And our aim is to connect families together, to share their journeys, and to introduce families to professionals in the area like we are today. Chris and I were connected by Diane Provo, an educational consultant. We met a few times and our vibes matched. And, you know, personally, I love parent education workshops. I learn something new every time. And it always gives me something to think about and talk with my friends. And so I hope you find this really interesting too. Okay, Chris, go ahead.
Great. Thanks so much, Mina. It's so great to see you. I just feel super lucky to be included in this group of amazing parents. And I can say that with knowing that you're amazing parents because you have to be, even if you're not loving yourself right now. So I'm super glad you're here tonight. And I just want to ask that if you can, kind of give yourself this time and this space for some quiet and like privacy. And so if you can turn off and like, minimal distractions, if you can turn off your phone, which is super hard for me to do. I always feel like I'm on call still. And if you can close the door or just kind of minimize your distractions so you can really kind of absorb the stuff we're going to talk about tonight. Because you're here for a reason. You showed up for a talk called, from frustration to peace. And there's a reason for that. And I want you to know that what we're going to talk about tonight really has the opportunity to transform your family. And I know that because it transformed mine. So I'm going to start right now I apologize right now, or just warn you, I have to glance all over the place because I've got two computers going on. And, oh wait, now did I do that? Am I sharing the screen? No. Okay, so I have to go, hold on just a second, to go to share screen. And then here we go. Slideshow, there we go. So I'm going to be going kind of back and forth on this. Oh, and it always starts on the wrong way. So tonight's talk is called From Frustration to Peace and Connection, 3 powerful shifts to transform your parenting. And that is what we're going to talk about tonight. I would love to say that if you just did these 3 things, everything's going to be perfect, but that's not the case. But I guarantee you, if you use any of what we talk about tonight in your parenting, you will see changes in your family. We're going to learn about the 3 shifts. And the idea is that you can get along better with your kids and have more peace at home. And I think we all want that. We all want to be less frustrated, have fun with our kids, be relaxed, at least some of the time. So feel free to post comments in the chat. I will not be able to see them while the slides are up, but I'll be able to see them when I turn them off. So first I'm going to tell you a little bit about me, and then we're going to talk about kind of what's going on with you guys. And then we'll get into the information, the 3 shifts. So my name is Chris Irvine. I've lived in Mill Valley for 23 years. I have raised my kids here. I am a parent coach, and I was trained at the Giant Institute for Parenting, which is, I'm sure none of you have ever heard of it, because I know I had never even heard of parent coaching before I decided I wanted to do it. But it's the largest parent coach training group in the world. I have people in my classes from Canada, which I know is not that far away, Slovakia, Kenya, India, and Australia, and probably other places. And then for some reason, this like weirdly large number of people from Florida. I don't know why. They need help over there in Florida. I've also blogged quite a bit about raising my daughter, Maddie, who is autistic. She's 22 now. I also have a son who's 20. They're Henry and Maddie are my kids. And I recently contributed to a book. You'll see it's this is written by the CEO of the Giant Institute. And as you'll see on the bottom, the coaches of the Giant Institute for Parenting. I'm one of those people. Just came out. And when I'm not coaching parents, I'm hanging out with my friends. I have the most amazing community leaders for friends. And we like to hang out at the depot in Mill Valley, or I like to go to the park with my dogs. There they are, Banjo and Ginger. And I also love to go to musicals in the city. That's kind of my big thing. But that's not, we're not here to talk about the fun stuff. We're here to talk about some serious stuff. And I want to start out by telling you kind of what I would say is my deep, dark secret about being a mom, even though I don't really believe in having that be a secret anymore. And that is, I used to really parent out of fear. I found myself so stressed out, agonizing all the time. And I didn't really realize it until my kids were grown that what was sort of driving my parenting. I was so stressed out, and I was just not interacting with my kids in the ways that I wanted to. Like, I wanted to have fun with my kids, but I thought I was just supposed to know how to do this. I thought I don't need help, or I shouldn't need help, I would say is more correct. That I was supposed to be this amazing mom and know how to just handle everything. And it was a lot. I mean, as you know, when you have any kids, it's a hard job. And then you get some kind of special challenge or neurodiversity, and it feels at times like an impossible task. So I found myself floundering, and I felt like something was wrong with me and that I wasn't good enough. So here are my kids. This is a few months ago. This is Maddie and Henry. They are my greatest teachers. It's 100% because of these two that I'm a parent coach now, because what I learned as a mom was that I needed to be, or think about being in the world in a different way, and being their mom in a different way, and thinking about who they were and were supposed to be, like who and what are my kids supposed to be, and how am I supposed to show up for them. So once I began to learn peaceful parenting, I went from, I'm not kidding you, feeling like I'm about to lose my mind, and maybe I kind of did lose my mind a few times, being constantly stressed out, constantly frustrated, to having pretty great relationships with my kids and just feeling so much more at peace inside. And this is why I'm here, because this is my dream for all of you. This is my dream for everybody, to find this more peace in their families. So now I want to talk about you guys. Does this sound like you? Does it sound familiar? Did you get really frustrated with your kid today? Probably every day, maybe you do. Are you exhausted? Do you feel defeated a lot of times? Are you waking up in the morning just feeling this huge sense of dread because you just know how hard your day is going to be? And you're wanting to be calm, but you just don't know how to do it. And you're thinking, I don't want to yell at my kids. I don't want to be so frustrated, but I don't know what else to do. I don't know how else to be with my children. And you're wanting this happy family. You're wanting to enjoy your kids. But you're at the end of your rope. I know I was many times. I said so many times, I am in survival mode. I would say for years, I just felt I'm just trying to get through the day. So your kid keeps acting out in the same way. You keep responding the same way, and you're not okay with that at all. How many, I know a lot of you are not on the screen here, but how many of you would like for that to be different? How would you like to have a more loving, peaceful relationship with your kid? How would you like to have less frustration at bedtime, less frustration in the mornings? Like the mornings were the worst for us. Less frustration at homework time. Maybe less frustration at all sorts of other times. Like for me, there were times when we were, there was a car out front waiting to take us to the airport, and my kids having a meltdown, and I was just, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to handle it at all. So I was dying for all of that, and I looked really hard for that. So this talk tonight is for you. If, like me, you want a different way to parent your kid, you want a way that reduces the frustration and leads to a more peaceful way of being with your kids, and all the while getting more cooperation. This isn't, roll over so your kids are happy. This is a way of really getting more cooperation so that your whole family life is just better. So you might be thinking right now, there's no way this is going to work. You might be thinking, she's going to tell me how to be a mom or dad, or I guess it's all moms here. And I'm not. What I want to do is just share some insights, some experiences, some knowledge that I've gotten through my 22 years of being a parent and my parent coaching training. So what we're going to learn tonight is how to create stronger connections with your kids, to reduce the power struggles, to yell a lot less. And I would love to say never yell again, but I think we can all agree that's probably not going to happen because we're humans and we get upset. But we can learn how to create this environment in our family where kids feel safe. We all feel safe sharing things with each other because we trust each other. So our kids can come to us when they're frustrated or sad or scared and know that's going to be met with safety. So there's no magic pill. I wish I could just say, oh, here's the 3 tips and everything's going to be perfect. This is a journey. This is a process. This is something you undertake. And it takes time. It takes practice. And you know what else it takes? It takes self-forgiveness, because we're all going to mess up, I promise. All the time, probably. So in just a moment, we're going to get to these three kind of their mindset shifts. So this is really about us as parents. How do we parent our children to have this kind of home life that we want? And so what my wish for you is that you don't wake up in the morning with dread, that you have more peace in your home, that you know how to interact with your children when they're acting up or having a tantrum or whatever. And I want you to know, I don't know if you're all here because you have a kid with a neurodiversity, but I know for so many years, I got so much advice from parents or people who just did not get me at all. And it kind of drove me nuts. And I want you to know that, first of all, I've been there, and I'll talk about that a little more later, but also this peaceful parenting paradigm, I assure you, is helpful for any family, especially for us that have this extra layer of frustration. Nobody can use it more than we can. So I encourage you to just take this in and take the parts of it that are meaningful to you and see where it goes from there. So I'm about to give you kind of a lot of information. It's mostly stories, but some information. And you might feel a little overwhelmed. You might feel uncomfortable at times. And I want you to invite you right now into that discomfort, because discomfort is what happens before a transformation. So if you're wanting to make a transformation in your family, you're probably going to feel like, ooh, about some of this stuff. Like, ooh, that makes me feel sad about something I did before. That makes me uncomfortable. I don't know about that. That's all good. But number one thing we start with is self-compassion, because we're all doing the best we can. 100%. Each one of us here, we are working hard and we're doing the best we can with what we know. But right now we get to learn, and as I'm sure you have, how to do better so we can, or how to be better so we can do better. So, okay, so now we're going to get into 3 shifts, and I'm going to turn off the slides in just a sec, and I'll be able to see your comments. The first shift in thinking is knowing that all behavior is an attempt to meet an unmet need. And I literally mean all behavior, all of it. We're always trying to get our needs met. So for the obvious ones, if we're hungry, we eat, right? If we're tired, we go to sleep, or try to go to sleep. Sometimes we need attention. Sometimes our kids need attention. Sometimes they need affection. Sometimes they need to feel autonomous. But they don't know how to communicate that. So before we get in a little further into that, I want to share with you this, you guys, in my opinion, is the most important thing that's coming up next that you can take away from tonight. And that is this. Your child isn't giving you a hard time. She's having a hard time. So when we feel like our children are acting out or misbehaving, this reframing of behavior as information is going to have a huge impact on how we respond to our kids. So I'm wondering what everybody is thinking about that right now. And I'm going to turn off my screen sharing so I can see. Oh, lots of information there. I parent in fear. So we'll get back to the slide in just a minute. Quiet time with my little one. Yeah. An autistic daughter at 4.5. In order for things to be better for us all, my daughter especially, it is up to me to change the way of thinking and engaging. Yes, that's amazing. Parent with fear and overcompensation. Absolutely. A hard time when we're around other adults. Oh, I totally get that. Yeah, I would love to have kind of dive into this stuff. I just want you to know, I see every single one of you. I understand what it's like to have a kid that is behaving in ways that are scary, difficult, embarrassing, frustrating. I see you, and I'm so glad you are here. This is such a gift to give to yourself, to be in community with other parents like you. I was not good about that, and it was really hard for me. So I'm super, super happy to see you guys here. So I do want to go back to this idea, though, that that all behavior is trying to meet a need, and that kids aren't giving us a hard time. So, and I've had teenagers, my kids are grown up, so I've been through all the teenagery stuff too. So when you start to think of it this way, when you start to think, oh, my kid's doing this thing that I can't stand, or that's scary for me or frustrating, and we want to react, we want to get our kids to stop it, right? When you start flipping this in your brain to think, oh, what are they trying to tell me? What are they having a hard time with? What are they asking for? What's this help they need? It will automatically soften your response. I guarantee it. It's such a different way of experiencing your kid. So we start to think, look past the what, which is where I would say for most of us, that's what we're focused on. What is my kid doing? And then look past the what and into the why. Why are they doing that? What are they needing from me? So I had this client who had 2 kids who the older one was autistic and the younger one is neurotypical. And I'm sorry, I'm looking over notes over here. Her younger son, her neurotypical son, it seemed like he was crying all the time. Kind of the boy who cried wolf thing. And she was so annoyed. And so like if he got in trouble and she'd send him to his room, he would inevitably trip and fall and then be crying and saying, I hurt myself, Mom, I need you. And it was driving her crazy. She's like, I know he didn't do that. I know he's not hurt. She's just trying to like deal with the other kids. She's just trying to have peace in her family. And so she was just not having it. She's like, I'm not going for that. So then as we began to work together, she started to understand that his crying was actually real. He actually was really sad. And the drama was communicating a need. And here's kind of the big part. The need was for attention. And what she realized is that it's okay for a kid to need attention. It's not a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with needing attention. What he really needed when he was being sent away, he was already feeling really disconnected from his mother, and he needed to reconnect. And that was the way that he could figure out how to communicate that, because moms responded crying, right? So when she started coming to him when he needed her, it just changed the dynamic and brought more connection. And then he wasn't feeling the need to be dramatic anymore because he knew he could count on his mom. So I like to think about like when our kids are babies, or any babies are young and they can't speak, they cry, right? They cry because they don't know how to communicate. So they're crying because they're hungry or they are tired or whatever. And then they develop language. And so then they could say stuff like, I'm hungry, or I fell down, I hurt myself, whatever. But what they still can't do it a lot of times is even figure out what their needs are. They don't know. And a lot of adults don't know. I know a lot of times I can't figure out what I need, much less communicate it. Like I'm still a big work in progress in that department. So they can't say stuff like, hey mom, I have a need for autonomy. They don't know how to say that. They don't know how to say, I'm scared and I feel disconnected from you. And what I really need is to reconnect. So, or let's say your kids are fighting. Let's say you have a kid that hits another kid. Maybe the kid's feeling like, I'm feeling like my brother's more important than I am. And so I'm just trying to get your attention and it's not working. So then I tried crying and that didn't work. And so now that's not working. And so I'm going to hit my brother because maybe that'll get me attention. They don't know how to say that. And so that's our job as parents to go, what is that kid? What is my kid needing from me? My kid's not a jerk. My kid needs something. And so I'm wondering for you guys right now, if you can think of any moments in your family where maybe you can see, like maybe something happened today and you're thinking, oh yeah, actually, maybe my kid was asking for something. If anybody wants to put it in the chat, or if you're having any thoughts or feelings about that, like how does that feel for you guys when I say that? Yeah, it's important to remember this quote. Okay, I'm going back up here. Sensory issues. Yes. Oppositional behavior. And I have to tell you guys, it's not like I said, you're not going to go home and be like, oh, I've got this all figured out now. Right? This takes a lot of practice. And probably what's going to happen a lot of times is you're going to react in your old way. And then if you're lucky, you'll be like, oh yeah, wait a second. And then you'll go back, and that's okay too. That's okay. I just did this a couple days ago. I kind of messed up with my kid. I was like, wait, I called her 5 minutes ago. I was like, wait. That's not what I meant to say. My son said to me, I see you out of my own free will, which was very loaded, but I didn't understand it, but he was in pain. I see you out of my own free will. That's interesting. Can I ask, oh wait, Larissa, how old is your son again? You say, I think you said 10. That's what I thought. Yeah, things start getting pretty interesting at that age. You're in for a little bit of a ride. So it's super good that you're starting right now with thinking about this kind of stuff, because the behavior can get a little bit more, like the stakes start to get higher as they get older, right? Has to wear a mask in occupational therapy. To try, even though I'm wondering, Cheryl, he pulls a mask down, even though he knows that means he might have to leave therapy. I wonder if he's trying to leave therapy. I don't know. That'd be pretty clever, wouldn't it? Oh, darn it. My neurotypical son does this when I'm pulled in 50 million directions. Yeah, it's always a struggle. Balance that feels not reachable. I want to remind you right now that we have these goals and we're just trying to make progress towards those goals. You may never, ever reach that, and that's okay. It's all about working to become better and to make things better. Even little tiny bits count. Your daughter acts out when she's seeking control. Yeah. Oh, he loves OT. That's why it's so crazy. Well, that's interesting. Okay, time to get curious. And let me tell you something. You may not figure it out. You may not, but just that thought process of going, he's trying to tell me something, it's huge, even if you don't know. So, okay, is it about control? I can't say I don't know your son. That's an interesting question though. That could be. So okay, I absolutely, I would love to talk to you guys all day long about this. And yeah, fair enough, thanks. But I want to get back to the material here. So thank you so much for participating. I really appreciate that. So let's talk about, like our families are unique, right? We have extra challenges. So I want to tell you about this client of mine who has an 11-year-old son with autism. And in the morning, just like mine, her mornings were awful. Like before school was terrible. And it was stressed. Like she'd wake up already stressed out, agitated, like this is going to be a shit show. And her son was slow to get things done. A super bright kid, capable in many ways, but it was just not happening in the morning. So then they would get in conflict. And one of the things they would get in conflict about was she wanted him to brush his hair, and that would just send him. And so then he would start calling her names, like really pretty bad names, sometimes attack her physically. And so we started kind of working together, and she's got this thing in her mind, like, my kid's defiant. My kid's is, a jerk. He's mean. And so we started to get curious, okay, what's going on for that kid? So she kind of, together we sort of figured out they both had this need for a smooth transition in the morning. As you know, for many kids on the spectrum, transitions are super hard. So they needed to collaborate together. He's old enough to collaborate to figure out, okay, what's a way that will ease this morning thing. So one of it was for her to like not bring her like agitated energy into it, because they're sensitive, they feel it, right? So instead of this morning and this like rushed morning stress, he needed a more peaceful time. He needed empathy from his mother. And so she started to look at his frustrations and his behaviors as a need. And that made her more calm and attuned to her kid in the morning. And then I don't know if you've ever done this, but I know lots of parents have done this, and I did this with my kid. You do things like you figure out together, okay, what's a way that we can make mornings better? And for some kids, it's they sleep in their clothes for the next day, right? It's like one less thing to deal with in the morning. Maybe she does all the other stuff she has to do in the morning so she can bring her best self in the morning. But the kind of greater point of that is that she softened her experience with her kid, because she wasn't thinking about his behavior as doing something to her. She was understanding that he had a need. And after just a few weeks, like 3 weeks maybe, she said to me, I've had no overwhelm. Now, I'm sure this was like a year ago. I'm quite sure she has since then. It's like it's all going to go away. But just that shift in her mind relaxed her whole way of interacting with her kid. And so what's great about this is this actually impacts her whole family, not just you and your kid. Like, it just creates this whole more peaceful way of being in the world. And you'll find if you start doing this, that you interact with everybody this way. You start thinking about your spouse, your other child, and guess what? Even yourself. And I don't know about you, but I did not have any idea what my needs were for probably 20 years. It was not even a thought. I was like, where's that part of my brain? I have no idea. So when you start to attune to other people's needs, guess what? It allows you to start thinking about, okay, what do I need? And then it makes room, then everybody in the family makes room for that. So I love this idea for all humans, basically. And as a little side note, in my opinion and my experience, all the stuff that we're learning tonight and all the stuff that I learned in peaceful parenting, I call it's improving relationships with everyone. Literally, this works with everyone. All the stuff we're talking about improves your relationships with everyone at your family, everyone you come across. So this is all stuff that you can take and apply in your life across the board. Okay, so I'm going to go back to screen sharing, and we're going to get to the second shift. Does anyone have any questions? What about setting boundaries? Yeah, that's it. So that's a super great question. That's actually that's like probably a whole talk in itself. That I'm actually not talking about tonight, but we can talk about that a little bit in the questions if you want. That's a super great question because it's absolutely part of it. Okay, I'm going to get to, there we go. We're going to go to the next one. The second shift is all emotions are valid and can be communicated peacefully. There's no such thing as a bad emotion. I don't know. Does that sound like for you guys? I know that most people I know talk about emotions as good or bad or negative or positive. And we have this idea like bad emotions are to be avoided. Like if you're sad or you're angry, let's figure out a way to not be sad or angry, or disappointed. So I'm going to turn off screen sharing for a sec. We have this belief or this feeling in our bodies that when we're sad or when let's talk about our kids. When our kids are sad or disappointed or angry, that we need to figure out how to make them not sad or angry. So I don't know. Can you think about this right now? Like when your child is really sad, is your first instinct, ooh, how do I fix this problem? How do I make this problem go away so they're not sad anymore? Because it's super uncomfortable for us, right? Or I think kind of more, we'd say the enlightened approach maybe would be reframing stuff for them. So like this, I think we all do this, right? With our children, with our friends, whatever. And sort of try to talk them out of being sad. So I like to use a soccer example because we live in Marin County, or I live in Marin County, and soccer's everywhere. So let's say your kid tries out for a soccer team, they don't make it. That feels terrible. Your kid's going to be super sad and disappointed. So I am guilty of all of these things, FYI. So your first thought might be like, oh, like I gotta fix it. So like my son got this, I did this, you guys. He got put on a rec basketball team, and literally all of his friends were on another team. Every single one. He did not have one friend on his team, they're all on this other team. And he was like out of his mind. And so you know what I did? I got him put on that other team. And it was just a rec soccer team, but still that's how a lot of us function. So the other way you might do it is go, you're trying to like talk about their sadness, like, oh, well, you should be really proud of yourself. You did a super good job. I bet that feels good for us right now, right? Does that feel like the right thing to say? I don't say right or wrong, but does that feel like the best thing to say? Cat videos, yay. Cat videos for the win. I love that actually. Or you might say stuff like, I'm sure you'll do better next time. Or you might even say, you know what, I heard that coach wasn't very nice. Or, now you're going to have more time for your friends. So what you're doing is using your logical brain to appeal to your kid's logical brain to talk them out of their feelings. And instead, what I propose, or what peaceful parenting proposes, is it's okay to have those feelings, and let your kid have those feelings and help them through those feelings. To not be scared of them, because when your kid can have these icky feelings, I'm going to call them difficult feelings, not bad or good, but they're harder. It's harder to be sad than happy, right? When those come up, instead of being scared of them, like I am, or I'm trying not to be, and trying to go like, oh, how do I avoid that? If you just kind of go, yeah, say to your kids, yeah, this is super sad. It's really hard when that happens. And then guess what? They get to feel all the sadness. And then they come to know over time that when they feel sad, they're going to be okay. They're going to come out the other side. They can survive it. They can survive, and they know how to communicate it. And that's kind of the other part, is like, when you can be with it and be okay with it and not want to shove it down, then you can communicate it. And I don't know about you, how you feel about like communicate. Here's my big scary emotion, anger. Like seriously saying that, I want to hide under the table right now. I don't like people being angry. I don't like feeling angry. So that's something I'm working on, is just being comfortable with having those feelings. So I want to just look and see what you guys are saying. Please try to make my kids laugh and they find it annoying. I guess I have to adjust. Distraction all the time when they were toddlers. Yeah, we were taught, I think this is really interesting, because that is a big thing that we were taught, right? Was distraction for our kids. And what I find really interesting about that is that what that distraction does, it's for us. It's distracting our kids for their emotions, so we're not stressed out about it. And I hadn't really thought about that, but that's super interesting. I'm really glad you brought that up. kimochis for social emotional learning. I love it. Okay, I don't know what that is, but now I want to find out. Sometimes you just need to be grumpy. That's so great. Yeah, that's amazing. I love it. Thank you. So I don't know about you, but I was definitely taught to stuff it down when I was growing up. I like to say that if you ask my mom for life advice, if she was being totally honest with herself, she'd say, well, just stuff it down. That's what her mom made her do. And so that's what she was comfortable with. That's what I learned. Like, oh, I'm just going to be fine. Like that's my mantra all the time. I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. But what that does is deprive us of these like super important life skills and coping mechanisms for when we actually do have these feelings. So here's another good reason to get in touch with this stuff for our benefit and for our children's benefit. When we are afraid of these emotions and don't know how to deal with them, and I actually prefer to use the phrase hold it in, because I feel like stuffing it down, you feel like you can just kind of put it away and there it stays. But when we hold them in, it's like, oh, that's effortful, right? We're trying to like hold it down. But guess what? It's going to come out, and it's going to come out in some way that's not great for us and maybe for other people. I had a lot of it coming out for me in physical ailments. I had chronic migraines for years. I mean, seriously, decades. I had digestive problems for decades. I don't have to anymore. And the other thing is that's what triggers are, right? Triggers is when we have this emotion over here about this one thing, sitting over here, we're holding it in, and then this other thing happens, and we're like, uh-oh, here comes that emotion from that thing. That's what a trigger is. It's not just like, oh, I'm feeling this feeling. It's like I'm bringing up an emotion from another thing. So when we can't deal with our own emotions, when we can't be comfortable with our own emotions and let them pass through us, then we take them out. And guess who we take them out on a lot? Our kids. And I know we don't want to do that. I know, I'm sure you're just like me. I always say to my kids, like, I tell them I love them, and then I say there's not even really a word for how much I love you. And then that's what we're doing to our kids. So, and I know we don't want to do that, and we don't want to teach them to do that. So, so what do we do now? Okay, we know we don't want to do that. We don't want to hold our emotions in and let them come out on our kids. Oh, I see dual busy working parents. I see that right now. Yeah, life's complicated, you guys. Amen to that. So that's the great news is, you guys, we get to discover, and we all can discover how to change inside ourselves. It's not easy, but we can do it. And that's how we have these great relationships with our kids and teach all these amazing things to our kids by modeling. And if we can't model it, then our kids can't learn it. And then guess what? Have you ever seen an adult throw a tantrum? It's pretty bad. We don't want that. It's not pretty when they're little. It's pretty bad when they're grown up. I love all this stuff that you're putting in here. I'm super excited about this emotion scale. That's fantastic. So yeah, we can learn how to do this and model it for our kids. And I'm telling you, it's not too late. I don't even know how your kids are, but I've noticed with my 22-year-old daughter, some shifts that I've made, and I haven't said anything about them. I'm just behaving differently, and she's picking up on it and turning it back to me. I've seen some amazing things from my kid, and she's an adult. So it's not too late. I didn't go back to screen sharing and go to the next one. Oh yay, I'm doing so much better than I thought I was gonna do. So this is this beautiful, pretty representation of emotions. There's so much more than anger, sadness, happiness, excitement. And these are just part of them. This is kind of what makes life beautiful, right? All these colorful, different emotions that take us on this kind of ride of life. And when we can feel and help our children feel able to accept the emotion, that just makes our life so much easier and better. This is a very kind of Buddhist way of thinking, really. Just kind of go with it. Like, yeah, this is terrible right now. That's kind of the end of it. Yeah. Okay. And then things will get better. Things will get better. And so this is all part of the inner peace that I'm just wanting for everybody. And it's not like we're gonna have, like I said, inner peace all the time, but the more that we can strive for that, the more just better lives we have, especially in our families. And this is how doing all this work is how we become these like really socially responsible, emotionally intelligent people who can contribute positively in our families, in our communities, in the world, really. And then that's what we're modeling for our kids. I don't know about you, but I want my kids to be like decent people, who have great relationships, and are able to ride the roller coaster of life, because that is inevitable. Stuff's going to happen. You're going to feel sad, mad, frustrated, surprised, bewildered, all of those things. Okay, so I'm gonna oops, what am I doing here? Okay, we're gonna go to the next one now. This is, wait, I already did that. Okay. The third shift is it. Oh, so I got to tell you right now, I can't see your chat. So if I'm not saying anything, that's why, but I'm going to turn it off in a minute. This might be surprising to you. This is my third shift. The third shift of many. I'm just doing 3 tonight. The needs of all members of the family are equally important. And I'm wondering how you feel about that right now. And I'm going to turn off screen sharing. I'll talk a little bit more about that. Stop share. Okay. Yeah, I'm loving watching what you guys are saying. So this, I think, might sound super radical to some of us, because in our culture, there's kind of 2 sort of ways of creating hierarchy in our family. Or is it to be loud? Yeah, that's actually, what I'm going to talk about that a little bit, because loud can be a lot of things, right? That's so funny. That's why they're loud. So there's kind of 2 ways of doing this. A lot of times, and I think a lot of us grew up in this family, the type of family where the adults were first, right? And I'm seriously surprised at how many people I know. Yes. Yeah, I'm seeing that. You put your son's feelings. Yes. A lot of us grew up in families where we were to be seen and not heard. And that sounds so old school to me. And maybe I may be older than you guys. So that's super common. And so then that's the adults just kind of run things, and the kids sort of don't matter. The kids' emotional needs don't matter. And then the second one is the flip, where it's all about the kids. We serve our children. We strive to meet every single one of their needs, to at great cost, often to ourselves. Like, we are not paying attention at all to our needs. And like I said, I seriously didn't even know how to think about that for such a long time. And I am still working on that, actually. So that's what I learned from my mom. It's definitely the model from my mom was, I had this kind of weird combination of the both, and maybe you had this too. So like, my parents were super strict. The rules were clearly defined. The punishment was pretty swift and severe. There was no discussion to be had. I always felt loved, but there was not a lot of curiosity about my emotional needs. And there was a lot of stuff for me to have emotional needs about. Like, there was a lot of stuff going on. I had, we moved around a ton of times. I was this super shy kid that had to keep going to different schools. We were very financially insecure, and that's why we had to keep moving to, like, my dad getting a new job. So, and nobody ever asked me, like, how's this going for you? How do you feel about this new school? That was just not part of the conversation. So, and then my mom's like the super devoted caretaker. My mom would literally give any one of you her last dime. That is my mom. So I got this model of both self-sacrificing of my mom, and then also I don't get to have emotional needs. And so that's a magic recipe for I don't matter. Right? So I don't know if that sounds familiar to any of you guys, or is that coming up for you? And you kind of think about how that was in your family when you were growing up and what you might have learned about that. I think more now we're trying to get more into this idea of a little bit more egalitarianism, but I also think there's still some level of hierarchy. I think probably I suspect a lot of us in this group are in the latter category where we're just trying to meet all of our kids' needs and we don't matter. That's what I would imagine, because I know how much work it is. Oh, interesting. Growing up with emotions are impediments to success in life. Inconvenient. Oh, that's interesting. Beautifully said. Thank you. It was like we didn't have feelings. Oh yeah. I know. My mom, did I tell you this already? My mom actually said to me like a couple of years ago, she goes, I don't like to talk about feelings. Like, yeah, I know. thanks for clarifying. Oh, but it's so sad. Like I'm laughing, but that's actually so super sad that that's how we grew up. Yeah, I'm really actually feeling that right now. So this is what I propose. This is what peaceful parenting proposes. The ideal family system model regards every single person, regards the whole humanity of every single person. And I'm talking about from infant on up, as deserving, as equal and deserving of care. And I know that sounds crazy probably, because I can remember saying to my son at one time, oh, no, I'm up here and you're down here. Now I just think about that and go, oh, what was I? And I mean, who hasn't thought that or said that to our kids? Oh, no, like I'm in charge. I know things you don't know. And that's true. We do know things our kids don't know. But I feel really sad now that I told my kid he was below me. Like that doesn't feel good for me right now. So I'm going to expect that probably all of us have not really thought about this. We have probably not thought, what's going on in my family? What are the patterns in my family that support one of these narratives that kids matter or adults matter and everybody else has to suck it up? So I want to let go of both of those narratives and say that each person matters equally. And I'm wondering how that feels for you guys. I'd love for you to put that in the chat. Like, does that seem weird to you, or does that make sense to you? So I want to feel free to just keep popping it in there. I like it. So I like to think of myself. This is like my favorite word I learned. Yeah, yes, Rose, 100%. I am glad you brought that up. Not all needs can be addressed equally. It is impossible to meet everyone's needs all the time. I mean, that would be amazing. That is literally impossible. So I want to talk about that really quick. It's super important that we know that. And so that we don't put too much pressure on ourselves. So we can't meet everybody's needs. Sometimes someone needs, like whoever being the loudest, right? Whatever it is. Or maybe it's not. Sometimes you have to go, why is that kid being quiet, right? What we can do though is attune to their needs. So let's say you've got two kids and they're both needing you right now, and you cannot do what they want right now, both of them right now. What you can do is say to the other kid, I see that you need me right now. I see that you're wanting whatever it is. And I hear you and I see you and I love you. And I'm going to take care of that in just a minute. That's how you do it. That's the attunement. And so I'm talking about like the deeper emotional needs, not just the surface needs. We can't, I can't drive my kid to the airport at the same time I'm making dinner for my daughter. Like that's literally impossible. But what I can do is address both of those things for my child and make them know that I see them. And that's ultimately what we all need as human beings, is to be seen, heard, and understood. That is our deep emotional needs, especially from our parents, to each according to their needs. Yeah. Oh, I don't know. I just, that is a fine question for us to discover, isn't it? Marxism or Leninism? I took a whole series on Russian history and I don't remember that. It's kind of a long time ago. Yeah, social media. I mean, oh my God, you guys, seriously, we could talk for days about all this stuff. So Okay, so I'm going to go back to this. To me, this is this magical word that I learned in parent coaching. It's not a lesson in my class. It just jumped out into my brain. And the word is leader. We are the leaders of our family. And I thought that's such a different way of looking at us, like we're the boss. Because leaders, what do we know about good leaders? A good leader inspires, right? They're not, it's not this big power over thing. They're inspiring. So let's say you're in a work setting and you have your boss or your leader, a good boss who is a leader, make sure everybody has what they need to thrive. It doesn't mean they get everything they need, but they get what they need to thrive in that environment. They are creating a system that works. And that's what our job is as parents, is creating a system that works for everybody. It doesn't mean it works perfectly for everybody all the time. It means it works in a way that empowers everybody and meets their most basic or whatever, like to whatever their needs are, right? Their emotional needs in particular. And then there's all the other stuff. I get it. You got to drive your kids around and all that stuff. So I just want to say, I see you guys, you square pegs parents. We have this added layer because we have potentially one kid who is the loudest. And as the mom of an autistic kid, I know how easy it can be to be like, I got to take care of that kid because their needs are screaming at us. Whether they're screaming or not, they're like in our face, right? So like I said before, like my needs were not part of the equation. I was so focused on that kid. But you know what else? I have another child. And he was this kid that seemed to have it all together. I seriously, you guys, I had convinced myself early on, it's gonna be smooth sailing for this kid. So, you know, he was excited to go to school in the beginning. He was like really bright, got his homework done really quickly, made friends easily. We had friends at our house all the time. He was invited to my own birthday parties. He was like athletically inclined. It's like cute. It's like super funny. I'm like, oh yeah, that kid's good. And that was an enormous mistake on my part. It is honestly probably my deepest regret as a parent. Because he had all those things going for him, but he had a sister that took up a lot of space in our family. There was a lot of stuff going on. She couldn't regulate her emotions. I didn't know how to help her. I was so burned out all the time. And so here's this kid with emotional needs, because all people have emotional needs. And I just looked at him as this kid that was fine. And I spent a lot of time with this kid, don't get me wrong. We had a ton of fun together. It's super close, but I was not meeting his needs because I didn't allow myself to see them, because I had a narrative in my head about what his needs were. So if I had more awareness about this when they were younger, I would have done things. I would have let a lot of things go in my family. Let's just put it that way. I would have made a lot of different choices that put my relationships with my kids first. And that's what I ended up doing. That was the magic sauce, you guys. I put my relationships with my kids before anything else. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit in a minute. And we're getting close to the end. So, okay, I'm going to turn back on screen sharing. Or the end of me talking anyway. Go back to that. Okay, so we've talked about these three shifts. All behaviors are an attempt to meet a need. All behaviors by everyone all the time. All emotions are valid. There's no such thing as a bad emotion. There's no emotions we need to avoid or be scared of. And all of us matter equally in terms of our needs. So those are the three big shifts. And so before, this is my daughter Maddie again. This is a few years ago when I was taking her to Disneyland. So I want to tell you before we wrap up just my story of transformation. It's kind of a hard story to tell. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Back. So my daughter Maddie was diagnosed with autism when she was just about 10 years old. She'd had a bunch of stuff going on. And at the time, the word was Asperger's. That's what we were given. And then, so she's 22 now. My son is 20. And I can tell you that both of them challenged me in some really profound ways, very different ways, but um, ways I never would have imagined, or in ways I was not prepared for. So I first want to tell you, can probably tell by looking at her cute face that she is the loveliest, kindest, and maybe you can't tell, but she's like the funniest person in the world. She's always been that way. Everybody loves my kid. Like, well, people say stuff like she's a kid or she's a hoot, like she's awesome, but she was really frustrating. So frustrating. Like when homework started when she was in first grade, it was supposed to take 10 minutes. It would take an hour. And I knew she could do it. Like her cognitive abilities were there, but she was just like distracted all over the place. So I was like seriously losing my mind. So, and then around age 8, something happened. What happened was she started acting out in a whole new way that was super scary for me. So when she would get upset, and it was usually around a transition, like either I wanted her to stop doing something or start doing something, whatever it was. And when she got upset, she started physically attacking me. And I don't mean a little bit, I mean a lot. And she's like this freakishly strong kid. I don't know. She literally sat her butt all day long. And she's like super strong and determined. So it was super scary for me. I didn't know what to do. She'd pound on me with her fist. She would sometimes grab onto me and not let go in a very upsetting and disturbing way. She would, on occasion, she even bit me. There were a couple of times where I had this giant bite mark on my arm, and I did not know what to do. I had absolutely no idea how to handle that situation. All I knew was I wanted her to stop. I was hurt. I was sad. I was scared. I was having this like out of body experience because I couldn't believe that the person I loved the most is doing this to me. So I understood she's having super big emotions and she didn't know what to do with them. Like I understood that. That was clear. I just didn't have any idea what to do about it. So I started taking her to a child psychologist to get help with that. It wasn't for them to do anything with her. It was really to help me be a parent to her. So we saw this woman for like 4 or 5 years. And at the end of it, I had to look her in the eye and say, I still don't have any idea what I'm supposed to do. I never got that information. So she was also seeing a psychiatrist because around that time she had like developed some depression. So we're dealing with, just very common with kids with an Asperger's diagnosis. So what he told me to do, and you're going to be shocked by this, he said, she's big enough now. She was like 12 or 13. She's big enough now to know that there are real world consequences for doing this kind of stuff. What you're going to have to do is call 911. Yeah. And I thought, oh, I'm never doing that. Like, forget that. The behavior continued. And there was a point where she was so out of her mind. And it was just an absolute nightmare. It was me. It was usually it was just me and my kids at home when this would happen. And there was a point where I thought, I'm going to have to do it because I don't know what else to do. And my son was holding the phone and he dialed the numbers 911. And I had a very calm conversation. The sheriff came out. They were super nice. It was all very calm. I'm very lucky. I know that because this, in retrospect, who knows what could have happened. But by that time she was calmed down. But I'm telling you, like now I just feel sick to my stomach thinking about that. But I was so desperate for a solution. And there was like this concrete thing I could do. And I will tell you right now, I wish it's crazy that I can't remember how old she was, but I was say 12 or 13. She stopped doing that. Like that was the end of it. But in the meantime, guess what? I totally like betrayed my kid. I even though I'm not really mad at myself because I was trying the best that I could and I didn't know what else to do. So she did stop. I was still really freaking frustrated with her all the time because she started not wanting to go to school. And every single morning was a nightmare. I literally by 8 o'clock, you guys, I'd feel like I'm done. I've used up all my energy for today, whether I got her to school or not. I'd be like, I just want to go back to bed for the whole day. I am toast. And I'd be like, I was just constantly like defeated, depressed. discouraged, like I just can't do it. And this isn't what I wanted. Like I want to have fun with my kids. Like the whole thing was like I'm the mom that used to do like the fake walking down the stairs thing. Like this is me. And here I am like in conflict with my kids all the time. So I knew something had to change because I just couldn't live in this, high conflict thing with my kids anymore. So you know what I began to do with both my kids at different times? I began to let go of what I call, it's capitalized like it's a title, getting my kids to do stuff as my primary goal. And I think that's what we often think that's what our role is, right? That's what we do. We're getting our kids to do stuff. And it's not that we don't, but I thought that's not the primary thing I want to interact with my kids about. I don't want it to be all day long making them do stuff. I want to like joke around and have a good time and have times where there's no agenda even. So that is really what began this huge transformation in my family, was being able to let go of this agenda, find calm when I needed it, be able to tune to my kids and encourage them, which I always really did try to do, but encourage them to feel all their emotions, and communicate them and model that. So but here's when I finally figured out what I should have done with my daughter. We're almost done here. Wasn't until I started in my parent coaching training. This is what I would have, if it all happened over again, I know exactly what I would do. I would, if I needed to, I would separate myself if I felt in danger, and that's okay. If your kid's pounding you, need to protect yourself like that, or if you need to be in a separate room, that's okay. And then the next thing is to empathize with your kid. And what I wish I had said was, oh, Maddie, I can see you're super upset because you really want to play with your brother's friends, which you often wanted to do. And that is super disappointing. And I can see why you are so angry about that. And then I would have said, I would have, in somewhere there, if I could, try to connect to my calm. Like and that's something you have to practice ahead of time. Like how do we calm ourselves down? And that's what gives our kids ability to find theirs. Because if they're like this and we go up here, no one's going anywhere. So if we can bring ourselves down, then they can borrow that from us. Know they're being seen, heard, and understand. And then I would have said, I'm going to stay with you and help you through those feelings. I'm going to stay right here and we're going to get through those feelings together. And I wish I'd had that information 14 years ago, but I have it now. And this is so here now I have this amazing kid, like, oh my God, like she always has been, but we have this incredibly peaceful, loving, kind, mutually respectful, mutually trusting relationship that I have built. I made that. There's a lot of mistakes along the way, but I made that. And those outbursts are really far behind us, but now you would be shocked at how well she can express her thoughts and emotions. Like you think I'm an autistic kid not being able to do that. I think because I work so extra hard, like she's amazing at attuning to her own emotions and being able to express them peacefully. So a couple of years ago, we're sitting on our hot tub one night, and this is like the time we have together. It's just the two of us. We'll sit outside under the stars, or she likes it when it's misty or rainy outside. And it's just no other distractions. Some of the cats, they like to drink out of the hot tub. And I said, hey, Maddie, I just love our relationship. And she said, I do too. And I said, well, what do you like about it? And she paused for a minute and she said, we respect each other. And honestly, you guys, I felt like my work is done. It was hard getting here. And, I still blow it, but I just felt like all that work that I did and all those mistakes that I made and all the learning I've done has led to this moment. And I want you to know you can have that too. You can. You guys have many younger kids, so you're actually getting a big fat head start what I had. So, okay, I'm going to turn back up my screen to real quick. Just for the last couple of slides. Oops, no, that's not what I meant to do. hold on a second. The heck did I just do? Okay, I don't know what happened. So we'll just, I was doing so well. I was so proud of myself. Oh no, wait, maybe it's over. Oh, here we go. So listen, I know it's scary to let go of what we know in the name of what we want. What we know is comfortable. We know what we want, but how do we get there? And that's the scary part. But I know if I can make changes to transform my family, so can you. I am not special. I am a mom who worked my butt off, just like you're all doing. So you can do it if you're ready. And I think if you're here, you're at least curious about it. And it's a choice we get to make. And that's kind of beautiful. Like we actually get to make these choices. How do we want to show up for our kids? My mission is to empower parents like you to better attune to their kids' needs and their own needs in a way that brings more peace into their homes and just more fun. Like I think we should have as much fun in life as we possibly can. So it takes work, it takes commitment. You're going to make a ton of mistakes throughout your life, and that's all right. A lot of times it takes a guide. I benefited so much from having a coach while I was being educated. I went through a program as a client first. And what the coach does is holds you accountable, gives you tons of new ideas and information, and sees you in a way that you may have never been seen before. And I wish I had done this work so much sooner, but that's okay because I was doing the best I could. And I'm just so happy that my best is better now. So, oopsies. Oh, I don't have the last slide. I made this special slide. In a second. Oh no, there it is. Woohoo! There's me. And Mina can send you this information as well. So as you know, I'm a parenting coach, and if you want to, talk about this further, you can get a hold of me these ways. You can look at my website. I work with the parents of neurodivergent kids. I also have a huge passion for teenagers. And I actually have worked with teenagers themselves. So if you're interested in reaching out to me, that's how you can do it at any time. I would love to continue this conversation. And then that's the end of my, we're done talking.
You did such a good job.
Thank you.
I just want to say, everyone that's here, this is a form of self-care, like I think of it as like, taking care of myself. So thanks for being here. I'm going to turn off the recording so you guys can ask all your questions, and you can take yourself off of whatever this is called, screens.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Yeah, hold on.